Phil Kerpen, president of American Commitment, joins us now. Phil, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
So there are arguments to be made for and against the Paris climate deal. You support President Trump in pulling out of it. Why?
Well, I think that the way this agreement was designed is very bad for the United States and accomplishes nothing for the environment. And what I mean by that is, even if every country in the world kept its commitment to this, the impact on global average temperature would be indiscernible. According to the mainstream models, the EPA climate model, it would be less than 0.2 of a degree by the year 2100. So you really get no benefit from an environmental standpoint, but you get dramatic costs because the U.S. being a party to this agreement leads to regulations, in particular something called the Clean Power Plan, that would raise electricity prices 20 to 30%. So we pay steeply higher electric bills, we get no environmental benefit from it, and we have a huge competitive disadvantage because the whole rest of the world has set their own emissions levels under this agreement to basically what they would have been anyway. They don't impose an economic harm on themselves. And here's the really outrageous part. On top of the fact that the regulations undermine U.S. competitiveness, we then have to pay the rest of the world for the privilege in a massive increase in foreign aid through something called the Green Climate Fund, which would commit the United States and other developed countries to $100 billion per year in new foreign aid to developing countries. So we cripple ourselves economically with regulations that our competitors don't face, and then we pay, U.S. taxpayers pay for the privilege. That's a bad deal any way you look at it, and that's what the president understands, and that's why he's canceled it.
It's a bad deal. Is there any upside to it?
There really is no upside for the United States. There's tremendous upside for a number of other countries that see this as a way to gain competitive advantage from the United States in the case of other developed countries, or gain an awful lot of money from us in the case of developing countries. And I think that's why you're seeing so much outrage and hand-wringing and so forth from the rest of the world. It's that they kind of ripped us off under the Obama administration, and they don't like seeing that great deal for them fall by the wayside with what President Trump is doing. And so I don't really see any upside for the United States of staying in this agreement, and I agree with almost everything that President Trump said yesterday.
So Phil, what does this actually mean for the average American? Will this affect our day-to-day lives?
Well, it'll affect our day-to-day lives to the extent that we now will not see big increases in our energy bills that we would have seen otherwise. And so it's not necessarily that you're going to see lower bills, although I think you will as the rest of the Trump agenda comes through and we have higher production and less regulation and so forth. But what you're not going to see that you would have if you had a Democratic president right now who followed the path that we were on, that President Obama set us on, you're not going to see another huge increase in energy prices that we otherwise would have been facing. And as a consequence of that, there are going to be more opportunities in manufacturing, there are going to be more jobs available. It's just going to be a general economic positive. And of course, from a taxpayer standpoint, you're not going to see a lot of your money going abroad to the Green Climate Fund. And so that's another pretty tangible thing that people will see.
A lot of world leaders are sort of shaking their head at President Trump and pledging to continue in this deal. Does this isolate us? Does this alienate us from our friends?
Well, I think they already didn't like our choice of president, let's be honest. I think the whole world, the internationalists, the people at these various institutions, Europeans, they all wanted Hillary Clinton. They don't like that we elected Donald Trump. They don't like that he's doing the things he said he would do on the campaign trail. That said, we're the most powerful country in the world. They can't not work with us. They can't not return our calls. They can't try to isolate us as much as they might say that in press releases. That's completely impossible. And so from an economic and from a security standpoint, you can't try to isolate the biggest, most powerful, richest country in the world. It doesn't work that way. And so I think there's some angry press releases, but that's about it. That's about it. I don't think there's going to be any consequence from that standpoint.
Phil Kerpen, thank you so much for being here. Always great to have you.
My pleasure.